Good morning, wrestling fans. Good afternoon, wrestling fans. Good evening, wrestling fans. Happy 4th of July, wrestling fans. Whatever time frame universe you're watching this in, this is Matthew and Linda Kay, the man they call Meathead, on assignment today. But it is going to be the two of us running down the week that was in professional wrestling. Linda, how are you this morning?
I am doing tremendous as always. I know that's a broken record. I say it each and every time, each and every week, but that is the truth. Another great weekend of pro wrestling. I got to be live and in the action. I mean, in the ring to some extent, but not participating in a match. However, I was in our steel cage often at OVW this past weekend. We'll get into that in a minute, but I will say one observation I just made is that, you know, me and Meathead were both live at Dynamite and Rampage last week in Milwaukee. And I believe the last time AEW was live at your host city of Denver, that following Monday morning, you were not able to make the show. So I'm wondering if there's a connection here to why Meathead's not here. I mean, I made it.
Thinking about that. Is there like an AEW strand of something going around?
They're known to be the more wild show of the major promotion.
Well, here's the thing. When they came here, like, I was stuck in the snow for a prolonged period of time. Now, I did hear some rumors about Meathead potentially engaging in some illegal parking activity or something.
Yes, I did hear something about that, but it is ironic because, you know, we just had 80-degree weather in Wisconsin, and I'm not kidding, right now it is snowing. So maybe it something of that nature. There's some type of correlation there with AEW being stuck, snow, car issues. I'm not really sure, but hey, I'm here. I made it.
So maybe it's like, we really need to look into the type of fuels that the AEW trucks use, because I'm thinking there's like some ozone global warming thing that's kind of like a reverse global warming that's really following AEW around. So yeah, we need to investigate this a little bit further. But I do have this question for you. Do you think Meathead got like one of those nice, polite warning stickers on his like tickets, or do you think they put the actual boot on his wheel?
I think it was more of a paper variety.
Oh, okay. So, dear good sir, please do not park here. Go see the magistrate to pay your fine.
Exactly.
Well, fantastic. Well, hopefully, after he's done paying the magistrate, Linda, he's still got some spending money left to purchase some of that new spring 2023 collar and elbow apparel.
Absolutely. While there is some newer designs, I've got one of my favorites, one of the classics. I call it the Sport of Kings.
Sport of Kings. Well, I need to go. It's been a little while since I have brushed up my collar and elbow wardrobe. As you can see, kind of what I'm wearing today. Not a no. There's not a collaboration between collar and elbow and the Stones. This is not a collar and elbow shirt. So I need to do better. I need to head on over there and get stocked up on some apparel. And if I need to save a little bit of money to help bail Meathead out, what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to enter promo code Linda K, LINDAKAY, save 10%. But Linda, had Meathead fallen and hurt himself when he was trying to get the boot off of his car from a pro wrestling show, he'd have been in better shape if he had a little bit of supplemental insurance.
Absolutely. And that supplemental coverage would be from ProWrestlingInsurance.com. Make sure to check out the website and the socials on Facebook, Instagram, and speak with our good friend Chris. Chris can fill you all in on how you can be covered if you get hurt, not just in a pro wrestling ring, not just at an event. I mean, this supplemental coverage is available for everybody, family members, this and that, or just even if you're not in pro wrestling. Of course, we have that specialty, that catering. We're not like food catering, but we cater to.
If you get hurt in catering,
I mean, there we go. That can happen as well. Make sure to go to ProWrestlingInsurance.com. Find out how you can have affordable coverage as low as $8 a month to make sure you get paid if you get hurt. And visit the website and speak with Chris to also find out how you can get your event coverage if you are perhaps making or doing, I should say, a pro wrestling event, as well as life insurance policies. Again, ProWrestlingInsurance.com.
Fantastic. So, Linda, you guys were at AEW this week. We'll get a little bit more of that in-depth breakdown here in a few moments. But a lot of the news coming out of the pro wrestling world this week did involve AEW. Some months after the fact, here's the thing: in professional wrestling, burned bridges or burnt bridges, burned bridges, burnt. No, burnt would imply that like just a little bit of like a burnt chicken, but like
Yes,
burned
a
the
charred.
entirety, right, of the bridge. They have a way of rebuilding themselves. Closed doors in professional wrestling have a way of opening back up. And you kind of thought it might only be a matter of time before AEW and CM Punk mended those fences. All right, we've used enough metaphors with bridges and fences and all that stuff here. There are talks that AEW, CM Punk, and company are on the path to potentially putting something together that would result in Punk reappearing in the promotion maybe as early as this summer. Linda, you were there on Wednesday. You were able to kind of get the feel of the crowd. Where does Punk fit into AEW at this point? What is it like post that whole deal? Because it seemed like my concern here is that there were those burned bridges, not just with the company, but in a lot of cases with fans. A lot of fans, I think, kind of got turned off by everything that happened there. So, Linda, kind of want to get your opinion on a potential Punk return and where you think that falls as far as potential programs and also kind of the overall crowd response.
You know what's interesting is Meathead and I were at the Dynamite debut of CM Punk. It was the very first time. Maybe it was Dynamite. It was here in Milwaukee. Obviously, crowd was hot, so into it. I mean, just think back about that United Center pop. I know. I mean, I've just thought about that. Like, wow, just how time has changed, or like just so many
Mm-hmm.
changes that have happened since then. Um, as far as the crowd, I mean, I think a lot of it right now is just primarily focused on that action that AEW has that sets it apart from other major promotions, from what we see on TV, what
Yeah.
we expect from that. I think right now, I mean, as far as the Punk situation, when we had what pay-per-view was that? Where we had Young Bucks and Omega debut, there were a lot of boos that we heard, right? From
Yeah.
Punk supporters or those that, so just unsure really what exactly happened from that backstage brawl and whatnot, but or when they were in Chicago, obviously that was
Yeah.
a huge booing, obviously Punk Nation there. But I think right now that steam has been set aside. Right now we're focused on just elevating some of the newer talents we're bringing in, or those in the indie scene. Like, I think right now our mindset as AEW fans, and I was not speaking for everybody, but from what I'm witnessing just on TV and from being just at Dynamite and Rampage last week, the crowd's just really excited
Yeah.
for that action, not really thinking about what's
Right.
happening backstage, more
Yeah.
so what they're seeing in front of them on stage, literally.
Well, and that was my takeaway. I've been to two AEW shows. I went to one early in the AEW run, one of the early March 2020 shows before everything shut down, and then again this past December. And I mean, I will say I had the most fun at AEW Dynamite this past December as I've had. I mean, even at a Mania crowd, there's just something
Oh, we
different.
saw you standing up
Oh yeah, that's
behind the
right.
back row there.
I got some TV time. I blew Claudio a nice little kiss, and I tried unsuccessfully to blade. So I
You
know
tried
Cal.
to capture Wardlow's hair. You were hoping
Yes,
a
yes.
photo would
What a
trust that
wasted
crowd.
opportunity. You cut that ponytail and you don't throw it out in the crowd. I mean, we've had that. Now that's a thing. WWE, they've dropped $100 bills before. AEW, the least you can do is give me Wardlow's ponytail, and it's not like I wasn't asking for it, but that aside, it was a great, great experience. And speaking of AEW, speaking of a live crowd, there is also talk that this summer, maybe coinciding with Punk's return, there might be another couple of hours of extra TV for AEW on the way with the potential Saturday show. Linda, I started with the Pro Wrestling Report in 2012, and the wrestling landscape has changed so dramatically, not just with other promotions, but my goodness, the amount of content each week. WWE, Raw 3, let's throw NXT in there, 5. Then we're going Dynamite, 7, SmackDown, 9. You put let's throw Impact in there, 11.
Yeah.
Throw another 2 hours of AEW, 13. I forgot about Rampage, 14. Linda, that would be 14 hours of proper content each week amongst the major brands, and that's not even including Dark and Elevation and all that stuff. Like a potential 2 hour Rampage or a 2-hour AEW show, in addition to assuming Rampage stays on Friday nights, is there a market for it, or are we going into super saturation category?
I mean, given all the other platforms made available, I mean, if we're going to go to 2012 or back to 2012, I mean, just think of the growth of podcasts. That's one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, hello, right? Not just audio podcasts, but video podcasts. You got to include that. You got to include streaming networks and apps and all that stuff. I mean, just there already is. I mean, unless you really have 24 hours out of your day to truly dedicate to pro wrestling, whether that's watching new content, listening to new content, or available, like you can watch replays, you can listen to you don't have to catch everything live like you had to in the past.
The crazy thing, Linda, we have got the entire WWE, WCW, ECW library also at our fingertips. I think there's a lot of people too that want to dedicate a little bit of time each week to like watch some old Nitros or something, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The initial reports seem to make me think that this is going to be a tape show. It feels a little bit WCW Saturday Night-esque, and I think that what AEW needs to keep an eye out for is WWE right now. They're running 5 hours. Well, I guess NXT is still live, so WWE is putting out 7 hours of live content each week. And I feel like if we have a 2-hour shift to a tape show in AEW, then the bulk of what AEW is having on TV each week is tape content. I think that runs some potential risk of making it feel not must see, making it feel like, all right, if anything significant came out of this, I would have heard about it, already, even if I was trying to stay away from spoilers.
Exactly.
There's a little bit of a risk there.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think about when we grew up, we didn't have the internet there to potentially spoil things, like you just said. So, I mean, there is some nostalgia factor there. I mean, if is this going to be a weekly or special thing? Because if it's a weekly program, I mean, growing up, we had for WWF, for example, Saturday morning, we had Superstars or a Wrestling Challenge. I forget which day, whatever it was in the Wisconsin area. But then when you have the special Saturday night main events, like that was huge. I think if it is going to be something Saturday, making it, I don't necessarily mean quarterly or monthly or bi-weekly. I'm not really sure, but I mean, as far as oversaturation, there's already so much going on. Now you just got to select and choose, because there's something called life as well, where you have to do other things, work, family, etc. But I was just going to say that being at AEW Live last week, one thing, I don't know if you know, there were ROH tapings where it was specifically for Ring of Honor with the apron and whatnot, not just necessarily dark elevation matches. We got ROH tapings before we went live on Dynamite, and after going off, I won't say off the air because Rampage was taped, but after Rampage, it was ROH filmings, Dynamite Live. We had Rampage filmed, and then after that, we did have Tony Khan come out saying, "Like everybody, we still have more ROH. Stay here, see some more great action," and then we're more ROH tapings after.
And the concern there is like how I was exhausted after Dynamite, much less Rampage here in Denver, and also the concern that there was 17 and a half feet of snow outside. I don't know that I could have done another show, and what energy level do you have your fans at, at that point? Here's the thing, Linda, I would be perfectly happy if that 2-hour Saturday show was just ROH.
Thank you. I was actually thinking about that line too. Stop making it, differentiating it a little bit. Yeah, we know like there's the ROH, dedication, like channel and shows, and whether web or TV specials dedicated solely to ROH. But if we're going to put something on network television or cable TV, let's make it strictly ROH to kind of differentiate that. Even if you do end up filming it at a Dynamite or Rampage taping, that's okay. We still have a lot of stars. That way, more the stars can be showcased, not just those that are more on the ROH side as far as bookings, but obviously there's a lot of intermingling between our regular AEW and ROH stars.
And so I look at the size of the AEW roster. I look at multiple hours of TV, and I also look at what WWE has done in the past. And I'm like, are the ingredients in this recipe for a brand split at this point? And I hope they're not, because that is an element of WWE TV I've never liked. and AEW wanting to be that alternative. I think that alternative needs to be something other than just having more blood. I think you need to say, no, this is one uniform product. We've got a big roster, but we're going to try to make this make as much sense as possible. I'd be a little bit disappointed if there was an AEW brand split. I think you can do that with the ROH formula, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Still making it not feel like you're splitting the brands. That was much more of a tongue twister than I had envisioned there. All right, so Linda, let's start at the beginning. Last Monday, we had a loaded Raw. I'm going to touch on a couple of highlights here. To me, the match that absolutely delivered in the show was Bobby Lashley going up against Bronson Reed. They were two big guys I don't believe they had ever met before. And normally, especially at a pay-per-view, this wasn't a pay-per-view, but you're not too thrilled with a DQ or a count-out or whatever. This match ended in a double count-out, and I was perfectly fine with it because there was a big pull-apart at the end. This is not the finish to this story. Bronson Reed giving Bobby Lashley much more of a competitive match that he's had in quite some time. To me, this was the highlight of the show, and I'm looking forward to seeing these two guys wrestling again in the near future.
Yeah, a nice swerve, no pun intended there. Well, not really a pun intended because Swerve was never involved with them and on another show, but to kind of steer us away from what could have been a Bobby Lashley Bray Wyatt match at WrestleMania. It was kind of lingering, like, do we then go back to Bobby and Brock, which is still, something that could be available because where has Brock been, right? But I like how this started from that Andre the Giant Battle Royal. We had Bobby Lashley eliminate Bronson. So that was where they led into why they wanted, Bronson wanted FaceTime on Raw. Thought great match, and leaving it open-ended. Could be so much more between the two of them. And good fight. Yeah, that was a great highlight from Raw last week.
And you're going back to old classic WWFE storytelling of having a feud stem from somebody getting eliminated from the Royal Rumble. Another surprise on this show, we had Cody back. Now, the fact that Brock beat down Cody for 10 to 15 minutes to end Raw the previous week, I'm like, is this Cody going bye-bye for a little while? And, you look at that and Brock, has the potential to kind of be part-time. And then that vicious beatdown, you're like, all right, are we going to get the payoff to this at SummerSlam? But no, Cody back to acknowledge the crowd and challenge Brock to a match at Backlash.
You know what? Now that we talk about this more, I was kind of thinking, with that kind of beatdown, should Cody have had on a neck brace or a crutch arm sling or
back
something?
Like normal. He was back like normal the next week.
Yeah, I mean, looking dapper as always, but not showing really any signs of any physical backlash or any really like mental backlash. I mean, I guess that is showing his strengths. He can take in a lot. I mean, that was that beatdown right after the match with Roman as well, but also him just not being really phased. So interesting. And you bring up another good point about Brock, potentially being part-time again. How is this really, how are we going to build this to keep it going? I know Backlash isn't too much far away, so we could potentially see Brock and Raw this week again tonight. However, I don't know. I think with that kind of beatdown, like I'm just realizing these now that we talk about it. It was a week ago, but you're bringing up really valid points. Maybe Cody was not going to be at Raw, or maybe he wasn't, but due to those flight delays, we're like, Cody, we need some more star power. Get your butt here. In I forgot what they were in.
Very reminiscent of the Raw where half of the roster got stuck in the volcano that time. Remember? They had those flight delays due to the volcano. It was a real thing, I promise. You can look it up.
Yeah, I gotta think back about that one.
Yeah, so thankfully no volcano this time, at least that we know of. But that's going to bring us to the main event. Kevin Owens going up against Solo Sikoa. Sikoa picking up the win after some interference. Linda, as hot as the Bloodline story was going into Mania, one of the best storylines WWE has done in decades. Me personally, I kind of wanted to see it tied up in a neat little bow at WrestleMania and then something else. I feel like we are kind of running on fumes right now. I know they're trying to extend it to Backlash, but to me, what we're seeing week to week on Raw and SmackDown does not have that allure and that luster that it did going into Mania.
Yeah, that's tough to follow up from that build up to Mania and where do we go from here kind of scenario. I like how they are kind of, steering in a different direction, bringing in Solo Sikoa a lot more and his involvement in the finishes with these matches as well. Obviously involved with the finish at Mania. I guess we could have gone two different ways. One, kept something going between Cody and the Bloodline. That completely, at least for right now, pushed to the wayside as we now have Brock and Cody having a feud. Right now, based off of SmackDown too, a lot of the focus right now is on the tag team titles and that tag team situation. Having still things going on with Sami and Kevin and the Usos and themselves, and now bringing in Solo a lot more in the equation. I found it interesting, I will say, and it really would have been SmackDown the week prior, how Sami was still like, I got to talk to Jay. I'm like,
Yeah.
He beat you down pretty good leading up to this. So interesting. Again, it was another way to extend this feud here, as we know they are going to get that rematch, but we're not going to get that rematch at Backlash based off of SmackDown. We're going to get that rematch next week on SmackDown, 2 weeks on SmackDown, something along those lines. So I don't know. I see where you're coming from in that, like, how can we keep things as hot as they were? It's just another angle, if we are going to keep it going till Backlash, cool. I feel like this rematch happening will not end in an actual finish. We'll get that rematch officially at Backlash. And then at that point, at least with the tag team situation, maybe that's where we kind of cut ties, at least for right now.
And I think the other thing too is, like, the Mania storyline, you had Roman with a viable contender. Now Roman's kind of, and speaking to kind of a part-time schedule, I don't think Roman's going to be wrestling on every pay-per-view, much like the formula we had last year. So you're basically trying to tell this with Roman more or less in the background. But some people that were not in the background at AEW Dynamite this week was you and the man they call Meathead. AEW in Milwaukee for you guys have had like 2 or 3 shows there?
This is the third.
Okay. So, overall feel, you kind of touched on it earlier, but, the building looked good on TV. The building sounded good on TV. Was that kind of your experience there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Always great hearing a lot of cheers for our local talents getting their spotlight as well. I think the crowd was hot, really into what was happening. We had a really energized, I can't think of the right word, hot, fast start, with Darby Allin kicking off the show as well. I think there was a lot of energy and momentum throughout the entire episode. I don't know, I had a really great time. And might I just mention, Matthew, by the way, something about the AEW shows where we just have a lot of old school PWR fans.
Yeah.
Just on site, saying how much they appreciate the show and miss the show. Like, it's insane. I saw some old school PWR t-shirts. I was also with our great friend, Dave Hero.
Oh my goodness.
So we had, and with Meathead, it was fun. It was great seeing a lot of just like fans just coming. I'm talking old school PWR.
Yeah.
Acquiring on the show. That's awesome. Of course we see,
was there a DJ Booger sighting?
No, I did not see DJ Booger, but I did see a few of those Milwaukee 316 t-shirts that we had that, and I have that old school t-shirt as well. But so it just felt good. Something with AEW was really kind of gels together, and our listening, our fan base from back in the day. So it's just so cool. So personally, I thought that was a great moment as well. But also, to answer your question, the crowd was hot and really feeling it, and I think it was a great show overall.
Fantastic. You touched on it earlier. Darby kicking off the show with a win over Swerve Strickland. I think AEW storytelling since the last pay-per-view has really, really picked up, because they are trying to tell this 4-pillar story. Mm-hmm. And one of AEW's challenges to me has always been, we've got so many months in between pay-per-views, which has either led to things feeling very, very predictable, or it's felt to them not really booking to the pay-per-view that far in advance, and then 2 weeks you're basically trying to throw a card together. So I think they're trying to basically tell a little bit of a longer story this time. Mm-hmm. We got the MJF and Darby promo at the end, which Darby, I believe it was this week, he clarified that Sting was not his father, which was, an interesting little tidbit for everybody to know there. But we're seeing more. What's interesting to me about this, we're seeing more mic work. We're seeing much more character development out of Darby, out of Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and out of Sammy Guevara, out of Sammy, away from the Jericho Appreciation Society.
And not really having Ty with him that much lately.
Yeah. No, I mean there's been no clear split, but you're right. He's kind of out doing his own thing. To kind of run down the rest of the card here, we had Powerhouse Hobbs defeating local Silas Young. How was the
Yeah.
pop there?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How was the Silas Young pop? Was the crowd?
Oh, that was great. Yeah. And he I think came out during break, but still hearing from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that's huge. Unfortunately, the match didn't go too long, but great to have that Milwaukee representation and also on live TV on Dynamite versus say in a dark match or whatnot. But no, that was cool to see.
Orange Cassidy defeating Buddy Matthews. I say it almost each week, and I'll say it again. This is a great match. I don't feel like I need to see Orange Cassidy with the title defense every single week. I know his style has changed a little bit, but I just feel like we're losing a little bit of the specialty of that gimmick by seeing him as dominant as he has been. Although there was a hand injury, we're seeing a little bit of kinks in the armor. I think it's a little bit of overexposure there.
But also just keeping that international title. Well, I got
yes,
that right. A little more special.
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree fully there. We had the Outcast defeating Rio and Sky Blue. I'm looking at this card again. Some of the issues that I consistently have with AEW, I've got one women's match. Like give us a little bit more of a balanced card. But the main event, Chris Jericho going up and getting the win over Keith Lee. This was a match I was really, really interested for. And it made me realize, we're talking about, AEW with more potential content, but I need to see more Keith Lee featured prominent.
Yeah. Yeah. Pulling him away from Swerve, or maybe there's still something there. I'm not really sure, but the whole thing with him and Jericho kind of came up quickly. I think it was just the week prior. Jericho was talking him back. Keith Lee came up and challenged him. Okay. But I thought we had a great match. You had the crowd there, very split between the two, but in a good way. Maybe not even split, but just cheering quite the equal amount for both, believe it or not. Because, well, of course, I got to sing in, Judas and cool. But then you have Keith Lee, where I don't really hear this so much on TV. Maybe because I haven't seen Keith Lee have singles matches that prominent lately. Because he hasn't really had many singles matches since his return, at least on TV. But hearing whoop whoop Keith Lee, whoop whoop Keith Lee, like throughout the match was really cool. And of course, bringing back his bask in his glory. That's how the match started, which we know that has steered over to the Acclaimed claiming but taking that. But we got to hear both of that, and just hearing that old school chants. Huge wrestling crowd here in Wisconsin and Milwaukee, of course, getting this and displaying just that love that we love our pro wrestling, and it was great to see just fun moments. I really did have a really fun time, and that's what you want to hear from anybody there attending your live show.
Absolutely. And Linda, I glossed over it. My wrestling weeks run together, but we also had the return of one Jeff Hardy, didn't we?
Oh my God. Another great moment. Thank you for that. That was a huge surprise and pop from yours truly. I was not expecting Jeff to be the one out there to save his brother. And then Hook was also out there. Was getting attacked. But that being said, when the music hit, you didn't even have much time to really take it in, because out runs Jeff with that new chair, the special chair that he brought in. But so great to see Jeff Hardy. Great friend of a lot of us here from PWR and GLCW, and just it's great to see him looking well and smiling, and just having Matt and Jeff together. That was just awesome.
Fantastic. And then afterwards we had Rampage that would main event with Jack Perry going up against Sean Spears, a man who is going to be in the greater Milwaukee area coming up is it Sunday? Saturday. He was not victorious over Jack Perry, but there was a great show of sportsmanship at the end as they shook hands. So maybe potentially setting us up for a Sean Spears face run in AEW, which would be kind of cool, because ever since the creation of the company, he's the guy that's come out just beating people up with chairs. So maybe he's turned over a new leaf there. But
no, definitely, you brought up a great point, because the name of our show this Saturday for GLCW is The Chairman Cometh. But chairman, whatever. However, I will say, with this being his return, yes, he left as a heel, being affiliated with MJF, the chairman, right? With his return, during the live time for the main event bit there with Mark Henry, which I know like having them together is much more fun than just the packages. But he did mention he's been gone. He had a baby boy, and I noticed in his intro and on the super there on the screen, it didn't mention that he's the chairman. It was just Sean Spears. And he saw that sportsmanship there in the end. So that was great. I think he'll be, he's, greatly accepted, a great reception on his welcome back. That he got the welcome back chance. And I think it'd be great to see him have a face run, as well as great to see him on our television sets. Because as you just said, I'm just going to segue right into this, Matthew. This Saturday night, Cedarburg, Wisconsin, Circle B, the home. Well, yes, the home of our most of our GLCW events. We have the chairman cometh with Sean Spears wrestling, and a great card overall. I'll be there ring announcing, and of course, if you're looking to learn from Sean Spears, very very knowledgeable, quite the veteran. He is holding a wrestling seminar before the show, so it's from 1 to 5 p.m. Central Time. Before the show, there is a Sean Spears seminar. Definitely get in on that. You can go to blizzardbrawl.com to sign up for both the seminar and get tickets for the show.
Fantastic. And, Linda, maybe as he, gradually turns to a baby face, maybe he distances himself from the chairman gimmick and he just outright refuses to sit in chairs. And so maybe you'll get the preview of that this weekend in Milwaukee. Maybe you go to his seminar and there's going to be no chairs. It's going to be on his rider, Linda. He's going to make sure that any card that he wrestles on, it's standing room only. There's no chair. I think it's a pretty involved gimmick. It's asking a lot of the audience, but I think, you really got to invest in your gimmick.
Yeah. That's the swerve there. Brought it back.
There you go. So, Linda, we are almost out of time, but I did want to touch a little bit on SmackDown briefly from Friday night. And we could have also referenced it on Monday, but talking about this Bloodline feud, in order for them to bring a little bit of new life in it, they have now injected it with Matt Riddle. So you quintessentially have the Bloodline going up against Uso, or going up against KO, Sami, and Riddle. The concern here with me is that I still associate Riddle in tag team formation with RK Bro. That was such a hit. Mm-hmm. I would prefer Riddle either by himself, still, doing it for Randy, or, Riddle back with RK Bro. And there's been a lot of talk that, Randy's on his way back. If you're going to split them, I want to get that story. To me, it just feels a little bit much having Riddle kind of thrown into this whole thing right here. Linda, your thoughts on that to close us out?
Yeah, I think it was a great way to bring Riddle back in. If you weren't going to have him make a return at Mania, let's give him this huge pop, this huge return post-Mania with the hottest storyline, hottest tag teams, being presented to us. You're putting him in with Sami and KO. That's awesome. That's a huge difference, to welcome him back and give him, a lot of that love back, not just from the crowd, but internally. You're putting him in a huge storyline right here, like the top story. I mean, outside of, I think, Cody and Brock, right? Just, off the stems of WrestleMania. I guess, yes, I didn't really think too much about RK Bro because I don't think Riddle's really, he hasn't even mentioned Randy, right? It's more so just helping out Sami and KO. This is also getting us to when we got Riddle and Solo on SmackDown, yes, but I think we can definitely keep growing on that. I mean, both having their shoot background and just something. I'm just going back to how this conversation started between you and I, but how do we keep things either fresh and still as hot as it was, or do we just at some point end it?
Well, and then I think something that you and I are both forgetting right now, we have a brand split coming up in a few weeks. So that might be all right, let's split it right there. And I think you're going to get that. I don't know who you're going to get split up, but I think that is going to be a big kind of a big reset to a lot of these storylines. So I think some of these storylines that are coming post Mania, we might be on a potential little holding pattern just to get us to the brand split. But that is also going to coincide with the PWR draft that's not too far away. And, I mean, I know we only got a few minutes left, but I would be perfectly fine to just draft Meathead's team. Just take something off of his plate, but Guess we will let him get his fair shake at the actual draft. But before we go, Linda, a very eventful weekend in OVW, correct?
Absolutely. We had our first ever Blood and Steel pay-per-view where every match took place inside our 15-foot steel cage. And as I was alluding to earlier, yes, I got to do some announcements inside the cage. We had some championship matches, but also explanation of rules. Because yes, cage match, in theory, at some point, like for most cage matches, it's either submission or pinfall or escape via the cage or through the door. We had various scenarios of this, which I will say, like being live and me not wanting to have a paper because it's not like we're having. I mean, our production. I mean, give a shout out to AJ McKay who does tremendous work with our production pieces. But I'm just going to bring up, for example, like when you have war games, right? Like on NXT or on the pay-per-view last time, the rules are on the screen. So like in theory, Rick announcer could be reading a sheet of paper. But with ours, I'm standing right dead center of the ring, got the hard cam right on me explaining the rules, and I'm just going to be like, well, I'm going off what I remembered, what I've gone through numerous times in my head. And thank you. I was able to get both various things. But let me tell you, the main event was involving our great pal Cal Hero tag team match with him and Tony Gunn versus Jesse Goddard and EC3, the faction against tremendous team. A lot of the crowd cheering there for Cal. Let me tell you, don't miss out. And you can still catch the replay on Fight TV. Go to fight.tv, look for OVW Blood and Steel. Check it out. It was #tremendous. Cannot wait to be back again. Just a lot of great stuff happening down there in Louisville.
Linda, I'm not sure if Al has like a suggestion box or anything, but you know what I think would be greatly entertaining is a steel cage match where the actual rules and the ways to win is very fluid and changes like every 5 minutes. So like, all right, maybe first 5 minutes you can escape the cage and win. Next 5 minutes you can only escape via the door. Next 5 minutes you can only win via pinfall submission, and then it kind of just flows back and forth. There's a lot of things that have been tried in professional wrestling, but I think there's a market for that ever evolving fluid cage match.
So this is happening live. Is it like a wheel that you spin like the next 5 minutes?
Yeah. I think
the only way you can win is
I think
door escape.
And every 5 minutes you have to take a timeout from the action to basically spin the wheel. So yeah. I think it'd be a big hit. So we got to get going. But before we do, I do just like I said, to take something off of his plate. Man, they call Meathead first pick of 2023-2024 PWR draft. Nicholas of the tag team, Braun Strowman and Nicholas. Yes, the man they call Meathead. He does not like to pick established talent as much as he does, rising stars. I think no better rising star than a guy who has a claim to the tag team titles that he never lost. We'll talk to him next week and see how excited he is about the newest addition to team, the man they call Meathead. But for Linda Kay, for the man they call Meathead on assignment, this is Etty Thomas, and we will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.